everyone. Mr. Salman Haider, Mr. Satyamurthy, distinguished guests, Ms. Deepak Sandhu, all the awardees today, college students, and all distinguished guests. I'll keep it brief, but let me start off with a story. Once upon a time, all stories begin with once upon a time phrase. There was a Raja. So one day he got curious. He wanted to know how honest and sincere his courtiers were. So he said, I have kept a barrel. Today all of you will bring a mug of milk from your home and pour it into the barrel at night. So everyone went home. At night each one came with a mug and poured. The next morning Raja went to see the barrel and it was full, but it was full of water and not milk. That was because everyone thought, okay, all others are going to bring milk. Let me pour water, nobody is going to detect. So everybody had thought like that and poured water. Consequently, it was full only with water. So that brings us to the question of ethics. Now this story is about ethics, not of corruption, but I would say ethical behavior is related to corruption. If you want a corruption-free society, ethics is very important. Now, I've seen an officer who passed the Public Service Commission in the state and openly demanded bribe. You know what he would say? To get this job, I have paid lakhs of rupees and I'm going to recover, so you give me the bribe if you want the work to be done. So, some of you may be nodding heads thinking that yes, probably this might be okay, but then, first of all, he has got his job by paying bribe, which means that he has denied the job to a meritorious person, his right. And secondly, he is rationalizing his corruption behavior, his corrupt behavior. Now, there are some people who say corruption is top down, that is, it trickles from top to bottom. But I've also seen bottom up communication or bottom up procedure. Now, if you agree with this man that I paid the bribe to get the job and therefore I will recover it by way of bribes, the corollary of this also should be true. That is, I did not pay for my job, so I will not take bribes. But do we find that? I think very rarely. Now, if you meet up with any person who has got through UPSC, Union Public Service Commission, the IAS officer, IPS officer, IRS, Customs, Indian Central Excise, and so on, they will all agree with one thing, that they did not pay a single penny for their selection. Yet, we find several of them facing corruption charges. So, why is that? Now, after getting selected, the IAS and IPS, whoever, they go to their academy, they do the theoretical training. After that, they move out to the districts or talukas for practical training. And where do they get their practical experience from or the learning from? It's not another IAS or IPS officer who would directly teach them. They go to the talatis, the IAS officers would go to the talati, the revenue inspector, and learn the job. The IPS officers would learn their job starting from constables, the sub-inspector, and so on. So when the constable would take the IPS probationer for night rounds for the beat duty, he'll tell the officer, "आप क्यों मना करते हो? पैसा आता है, लक्ष्मी है, ले लो. आप नहीं लोगे तो कोई दूसरा ले लेगा आपका हिस्सा. This will never end." That's what he says. And that is how the initiation begins into corruption. That's how indoctrination happens. So the officer will will think that this is regular thing. So he will start taking bribes from those very constables or the sub-inspector as conduits, middlemen, and then will go deeper and deeper into the den of corruption without even realizing it. So this is very important. Now, there are high levels of corruption, of course. Now, corruption is not just limited to taking bribes from people for their work. It can be embezzlement, misappropriation of public funds, government money, using them for your own personal use. It can also be kickbacks while awarding contracts. Now, at a higher level, what affects the economy, there is kickbacks received for various deals or contracts awarded, including starting from arms deal, which can run up to crores of amount. Any contract like PWD roads or housing or procurement of medicines in health field and so on. Now that affects economy, but it doesn't affect the common man. What affects the common man, as someone said here, is that 500 rupees bribe which the traffic policeman will demand, or it's the bribe that, it can be a chiller amount, but the bribe that you give for getting your right, that is your, let us say, income certificate or caste certificate or your birth certificate and so on. So what's wrong here is, though these departments which like revenue, police, RTO, these are the departments where public is directly in touch, and even a small amount hurts the public, and that is where these departments need to give more attention to their image and need to tell them, the officers more, because I've seen many officers brush off corruption, saying, oh, higher level pure, in other departments it happens more in crores of amounts. That is true, but that doesn't absolve these departments which are directly in contact with public to, you know, abstain or absolve from their responsibilities. They're equally responsible. So how does one treat this problem? Now, I think it like this: the academy, the community work, the families, the parents, the way we teach our values, as someone said about education, value education. Now, it's generally a practice, you know, that when a child comes to you and says, "Main ye karunga," when he or she tells the parent will say, "Okay, nahi, ye nahi karna, this is right, this is wrong." And when the child asks, "Why is this right?" or "Why is that wrong? Why I should not do that?" then the parent will say, "Chup chap karo jo main kehta hu. Don't ask too many questions. This is wrong, so don't do it." I think this robotic method of teaching the children morals, I think that is where we are going wrong. Because when the child is told this is wrong, don't do it, and he doesn't get answered his questions satisfactorily, it is somewhat imposed on him or forced on him without him realizing why he should not do it. So when anything is imposed on you, you resent it, right? When anything is forced on you, you resent it. So this is what similarly happens with our kids. So there's another method, probably better one, and I think that is giving our kids a kind of empathetic experience. Like you say, when a child asks, let's say a child snatches or steals somebody's book and comes, you say, "Ye galat hai, don't do it." Instead of that, you also say, if you have stolen or snatched away somebody's book, just imagine what would be going through in the mind or in the heart of that boy or that kid from whom you have taken away. He would go to his parent, he would get beatings or scoldings as to why you lost it. The parent may give money for an extra book or not, and then he has to rewrite, copy the things, whatever he is lost. So what would he be going through? If same thing is done to you, how would you feel? So I think that probably empathic feeling makes the child understand, yes, okay, this is wrong, because if I do this to that person, what he will feel, or if the same thing is done to me, I'll feel very bad, and that is why I should not do it to others. So it's also a way of, you know, acknowledging, if everybody does it, what will happen to the society? Maybe you can tell your children, just imagine everybody doing this, not just you. What will happen? So somewhere these are the ways I think our children should be taught values, so as to those values, you know, value imbibement become effective in our kids. Now, legally speaking, I'll just take a few more minutes. Legally speaking, what are the ways to cut corruption? One is strict enforcement of law. When you know that you will not be left if you are corrupt, and you will be hanged in the sense you will be punished. If you know that the law will be enforced strictly, that is one short method that discourages people from being corrupt. Now, why, for example, you were speaking of Asian tigers, those economies, Asian economies, Singapore, Bangkok, Thailand, and so on. Now, what makes Singapore more effective than other countries is there the person realizes, if I take bribe or if I'm corrupt, it will be caught, not just caught